My dearest darling, you will receive this letter after the day we were together.
The year was 1965.
If you know how much I love you.
50 years ago when Luke wrote his first love letter to a woman named Sharon.
How more I think about you, the more I like to be with you. This is my first letter to a wonderful girl, and then written in English.
Just so attracted to him from the first day.
I felt captivated by her. There was something in her and about her that I was attracted to as a person, as a woman, and there was something spiritual about her.
He first laid eyes on her in church.
Tell me the Lord didn't send him. The Lord sent him right to me.
But first, Heavenly Father sent him to Holland on April Fool's Day, 1940.
I didn't want to be born on April 1. So I remember the voice of the doctor yelling and screaming at my mother, push, push. And I said, no way, over my dead body am I going to pop out on the wrong date. So I tried to hold on to the umbilical cord. Stupid thing was, first of all, it was kinky and slippery, so my hands weren't developed well enough. So before I knew it, I was hanging upside down, and he beat the crap out of me. But I got back to him. I peed all over him. That's April 1, 1940.
Lucas Nyland was born to Gerard Nyland, a father he never knew. He was a concert organist buried in a Nazi concentration camp by the time Luke was 3. His mother, Rina Conton, remarried Will Visser in 1946, and Luke became Lucas Visser.
He just didn't understand what family was all about.
Luke had a very tough childhood, bouncing in and out of foster homes and boys' schools.
I had to pluck chickens for dinner because they're run by nuns.
While he was working for his keep, halfway around the world, Sharon Eva White was living a charmed childhood in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Dad wanted horses all his life, so he bought us Shetland ponies when we were little, and a little tiny wading pool that he got from the army, and so we had everything, we had everything that we could want. Dad didn't have a vegetable garden in our backyard. We had a horse corral.
Sharon was born on February 6, 1941, to Alfred Henry White Jr. and Jewel Meekum. She was one of 5 children, and 3 of her cousins were also raised in her home. She played daily with her brother and her best friend, Louis.
I had what I called a childhood sweetheart.
He was a young man she helped get through school. But in the fall of 1959, Sharon found herself at BYU studying elementary education while also supporting herself as a beautician.
My brother called me and he wanted me to come home to go to school with him for a couple of semesters before he went on a mission. And all he'd had to do was ask. So I came home at Christmas, and we were able to go to 2 quarters of school together. And he went to a class, a speech class, and the teacher was hired to recruit students to go through a deaf education program, become teachers, because the state didn't have any educators for the deaf. And so he said, do you know deaf kids can talk? And I said, no, they can't. They have to sign. And he said, no, they can talk, and I'm going to a demonstration tomorrow. Do you want to come? And I said, no.
Sharon soon learned she had a true passion for teaching the deaf.
I could see what they didn't get and why.
Meanwhile, Lucas was studying graphic arts at a college in Amsterdam. But instead of finishing high school, he chose the Air Force.
I wrote a letter to the husband of Queen Juliana, who was the chief of all the armed forces, and told him that I prefer to be in the Air Force. And I got a letter back from his staff, and they basically said that it's very nice, but the requirement is that you speak English. So I thought, well, I can handle that, so I wrote a letter back in English. Next thing I knew, I was in the Air Force. So I learned that you don't deal with underlings, you go to the top if you can't do it, to get the decisions made in your behalf. And so I spent a year and a half on a rocket base in West Germany, which was part of the ring of Nike Hercules rocket bases surrounding Russia. And where there was no land, the submarines would take care of that on the oceans and the north. That was an exciting time in many ways. That's when I really became a man. I grew up, and it was a wonderful camaraderie because nobody was looking at social status. We were all in the same boat, and that was a good experience. But then during that time, I applied for a visa to immigrate to the United States.
Before he left Europe, 2 Mormon missionaries came knocking on his door where he lived 80 miles east of Amsterdam. He was 22 years old at the time.
They came in and we sat, and because I love history and archaeology, and this sort of start talking about the Book of Mormon. And it really didn't take a long time for me to be convinced that there was something in that book that made an awful lot of sense to me. And so just to make sure that they weren't going to think they got themselves an easy convert, I just let the time go, you know. So finally, the golden question was asked if I would be interested in being baptized, and I said yes. And that was an interesting experience because I had to go to another city, and they had an old house where they had built a font. I really felt different afterwards.
2.5 years later, he was granted the visa he needed to come to America. His plan to not stop until he reached Salt Lake City.
I didn't have enough money to come to the United States because I had to pay part of the bill to travel to Salt Lake City. So, but I made a choice, either pay my tithing and not have enough money, or not pay my tithing and have enough money. But I thought the better thing is for me to pay the tithing, and then we'll see what happens. And yes, lo and behold, several weeks later, I got a check from the government, a reimbursement, and to pay my share of the bill, and then I had $15 left in order to make it to Salt Lake City, which I still had when I arrived. My friend and his mother picked me up, and we went over 7th East, and it was the widest street I'd ever seen in my life. There was another missionary, his name was George Van Coleman, who told me that if I needed anything, any help, to contact his parents. And they were basically down the street from where I lived. And they were Dutch. They came here in 1954 and started a new beginning. And they offered me a room in the basement to stay. And he was in construction, so he also offered me a job. So I had some work. And my job was to tar basements, which was a delightful experience. So I did that for a while, but unbeknownst to me, Sharon was living up the street.
By this time, Sharon was a full-time teacher for the deaf in Ogden, but she would come home on weekends and go to church with her family, the same ward Lucas was also attending.
I didn't know there was a black widow sitting in the audience, in the congregation, who was going to capture me and maybe eat me alive.
Why don't I tell this part?
Yes, go ahead, dear.
It was the first Sunday of December, and it was 1964, and I heard this young man get up and bear his testimony, and kind of broken English, but he had such a strong testimony of Christ. My brothers had that, but I'd never heard any other young man after mission have that knowledge and that burning testimony. And I just said to myself, he's mine. I'd never chased a guy in my life. I was 24.
Sharon tried multiple ways to catch his eye, forcing her sister to go with her as she sat by Luke in the same pew, inviting him to family dinner. But nothing worked until she approached him while he played music.
I heard him playing the organ. Oh my word, he even is talented. So I went up and I said, well, I put some music in front of me, a hymn book, and I said, play this and I'll sing it, because I had a singing voice. And he says, well, I don't read music, so hum it and I can play it. And he had been playing stuff from Handel on the organ. So I was surprised that he couldn't read music. And I had said to my sister, take my car home, because I'd seen he had a little Austin Healey Sprite, and I had a brand new red convertible Futura. And take my car home, I'll get a ride with him. And then I thought, no. Took him back, go home with Mom and Dad. So we're through, and he said, oh, by the way, do you have a car? And I almost lied. I thought, oh, I'm going to tell him no. But I couldn't. So I said, yeah, I have a ride. Well, I have a car. He says, well, can I have a ride home? What happened to your car? Oh, I got in a car accident. It's in the shop. So I got to take him home and see where he was living.
Their first date was to the temple, as Sharon prepared to see her friend Mary.
I had asked the bishop 6 months before. I said, I want to go to the temple. I want 6 months to prepare. And so I was going through the temple that week, and it just so happened she was getting married the next day. And so she came over and she was giving me all the information, because I was going to come and go to the ceremony with her. And he stood there and said, you're going to the temple tomorrow? And I said, yeah, taking out my endowments. And he says, I want to come. And I thought, oh, that cute little foreign boy, he doesn't know the system yet. And I says, well, you have to get a recommend, and you have to. And he says, I'm already endowed. Huh? And I just, everything just kept falling into place. I went last month. So I'd always felt like, here I'm going to the temple and my husband will not be there. So as I'm sitting across from him in the Garden of Eden room, I'm thinking, is he going to be my husband? And that night I prayed. I was on my girlfriend's bunk bed, curled up on the top bunk praying. The Lord just told me. Just never had a doubt. But I knew it would take some time for our love to grow, and I was willing to wait a few days, weeks. We were engaged very quickly.
Their first kiss happened not long after, while they were on a drive to the old Cottonwood Mall.
Delicious.
I was shocked.
It wasn't a French kiss.
You need to be that detailed, huh? At that point, he told me he loved me. I went home, woke up my parents, and told them I was getting married.
And before long, Luke proposed with a ring he designed himself.
I told Mother, if he shows you a diamond ring, tell him to take it back. I only want it if he's designed it. And so he brought one home from Norman Barrett, which is our jeweler. He took it back, and he was quite surprised. And a few days later, he came bringing my mother a photograph, an illustration, excuse me.
An illustration. I drew.
And he drew
the
it.
ring.
And so you tell him about it.
Well, we both have the same concept. First of all, she has more diamonds.
Of course.
But there is the center one is the engagement band. At the outside is a wedding band, and the other one is an eternity band. And it's held together with a platinum Star of David, and then in the center is a diamond. And she has an Egyptian setting that holds the diamond out of the Star of David. Because it was also the philosophy, and my belief is that at one time, the Star of David, which will reunify all the tribes of Israel back together. And so that was the statement I wanted to make.
They were married by Elder LeGrand Richards for time and all eternity in the Salt Lake LDS Temple on June 7th, 1965. They moved to a home in Taylorsville, and a little more than 9 months later, on March 31st, 1966, their first child was born. They named her Angela.
I cried and cried when the doctor put her on my stomach, thinking, you just left the Lord, and now you're mine.
Over the years, Angela became a talented creator.
She was so gifted. She had Luke's talent in every area. And I remember when she was 8, I saw her making doll clothes, and they were intricate. And she always wanted to be a fashion designer. So I thought, okay, I've got to help her get prepared for this. At 10, I put her in a sewing class, a private sewing class. By the time she was 12, 13, she was making clothes, taking a pattern off a dress that she liked and modifying it and making it. Just, phenomenal.
And where her dad was gifted with his ability to play the piano, Angela could sing. Angela gave birth to Braden and Megan before passing away with cervical cancer in 2012, leaving her children in the care of her parents.
When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, that she was so open and willing to open her doors and let us come live here as a permanent resident, no matter how long it would take. And she just went out of her way to make sure that whatever we needed was taken care of us, because it was kind of a rough time, and she's just a loving person.
Before Sharon became Braden's grandmother, on July 13th, 1969, she gave birth to her first son, Michael.
My mom pretty much saved me from becoming a permanent hellion. My friends were not the greatest friends when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And I pretty much said every swear word in the book at that age. And she saw the writing on the wall. And she covertly got me involved. I had a pretty good singing voice. She got me involved in the Utah Boys Choir. And that temporarily got me away from my friends.
I was so determined that my kids would be creative, spiritual, healthy, intellectually gifted, that they would be so well-rounded. They would have music in their life. They would have, sports. They would have it all.
Luke moved a small family to Phoenix in 1970 to take a job as a photolithographer. On March 24th, 1972, Sharon's water broke for the third time, at a time when she was wearing her favorite red nightgown.
So we get in the ambulance, and the guy said, how do I get out of this subdivision? And I'm dying.
Well, we told them the name of the hospital.
Okay.
And they both were rookies.
Oh.
They didn't know where to go and what to do.
So I'm trying to direct him.
We went
he
from
doesn't
one
know where the
street to
hospital
another,
is.
and many of them, you couldn't get through. So we had to turn around and go another different way.
All of a sudden I hear, oh no, and the ambulance stops. What's the matter? We've come to a roadblock.
Of course. Yeah, okay.
So then I keep saying, this baby's going to be born.
Were you screaming at that point?
I wasn't screaming with pain. I just was worried.
Okay. What,
So
honey?
he calls the emergency and tells them, but he happens to go to the wrong door.
Wipe your face off.
Well,
So we're
those
there.
doors when we were right there were locked.
Yeah, and the doors were locked because
We couldn't
the
get
nurse
in.
was in the bathroom and the doctor was upstairs doing rounds.
And I was
2:30 in the morning.
hitting the windows and the doors, and the baby was already blowing bubbles.
Yeah, he had her head in his hand, And
Were
he's
you standing?
And he's no, I'm on the stretcher, and he's banging on the.
I was sitting on the
floor.
stretcher with having the
of it.
baby. And finally, now, mind you, she is just like Mother Teresa. She won't show or say anything when it comes to stuff like that. And here is the baby already crowning and blowing bubbles. So she was panicked. I was getting
Because she was out.
well, because I wanted to keep her lid down because so she could breathe. And so we finally were able to get in the hospital. The doctor came down and took over. And then when everything was said and done, he sends us a bill to pay for the delivery. He says, "What delivery? You didn't do a thing. She popped out on her own."
Out came Teresa, and the very next day the family moved for the last time to this home in Sandy, Utah, a place Luke has remodeled and decorated every inch of with his incredible artwork, like this painting, a gift to Sharon on the day they were married.
He loves me and wants to do for me and wants to build this castle, and his mind never stops working, never stops creating. If there's a spare space on the wall and we're walking at the mall, and that would be just perfect for there. So now the thing is, honey, there's no more wall space. If you do anything, it's gonna have to be on the ceiling. So 2 years ago, he started to do the ceiling in his studio upstairs. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
On August 14th, 1978, they became parents for the fourth time when their baby boy Patrick was born.
When I think about my parents, there's a lot of, I guess, virtues that they've instilled inside me. Honesty is one. Honesty is a big thing, and I remember a lot from my parents. I felt they were always honest with me.
But Luke and Sharon didn't yet feel like their family was complete, and while watching TV in 1989, they came across a teenage boy named Ryan being featured on a program called Wednesday's Child. He needed a home, and Luke could relate, having experienced the same need during his childhood.
He wanted to give back, and so he sought an opportunity, and they took it.
It was a challenge because Ryan was so broken.
But he was a friend to Patrick, the only child still left in the home.
He taught me how to skateboard. You know, he taught me new music like The Cure. To see them freely give in many, many instances. And it was a difficult relationship. It was a difficult relationship in the end, and it was one that it really spoke to the character of my parents, because they constantly forgave, always had doors open, any chance that they could, and that he would allow them, and he would come back and oftentimes, and require assistance and help, and they would always help.
Luke and Sharon took in Tracy, the mother of Ryan's only child Zoe, and raised her as their grandchild after her father passed away.
Whenever I'm around him, he likes to talk about my dad. And my dad had passed away when I was in 4th grade. And so it's really touching to me that he brings him up a lot. And it makes me feel like I am with my dad sometimes, because I feel like my dad would act similar to him.
Through the years, the Vissers' love increased.
With each child, he learned to love me more.
And on their 25th wedding anniversary in 1990, Luke planned a huge surprise, ordering a 1932 Rolls-Royce to drive them to the Lakai.
And a lot of people thought, who in the world, is the mafia coming and eating here? Because the guy had to stand outside by the car. First of all, it's very expensive automobile, so you wouldn't leave it alone. And so I had roses brought to the table, and we had a wonderful evening.
It's been one of many wonderful evenings as they've watched their family expand to include spouses and 13 grandchildren.
I want you to sing my alligator song.
Okay. Alligator under my bed?
Yes.
Okay. Remind me how it starts. Oh, Mom, there's an alligator under my bed. Please come. Dad, I I heard an alligator under my bed. Please look. Now I know you can't see it. Duh, it's hiding. Just go back to bed and I will figure it out. Instead, I'm dead. I know there's an alligator under my bed, but where? I've gotta get him out of there. But how? I wonder if he needs to be fed. Oh, dread. I'll just go get the food and make a trail of it to my room. I'm doomed. I hid in the closet to wait, yes, wait, for the gator to eat the bait. Along out he came, along the floor, down the stairs, and out the door. Slam! Dad, there's not an alligator under my bed no more. But Dad, there's an alligator under your car. For sure! I like ice cream.
Through the years, her grandchildren remember going to work with her.
My grandma, she took all of her grandkids to her school, and she took us to this place and we got treats.
She always takes the grandkids to her preschool, and she integrated the kids with her deaf children, and she just is always singing songs, making up songs, getting the kids involved, and I just love that about her.
My mom was always going to school, always developing herself, and one of the things that she loved to do was theater, and she would teach her students how to communicate, her deaf students, how to communicate using theater, because they were always asking, did I say this right? Did people understand what I was saying? So it motivated them. And because of that, I created a passion for theater as well. And I still remember going to road shows growing up with my mom. I was the only one in my family that got involved in those things with my mom. And I was in, plays like Hello Dolly and Fiddler on the Roof and things like that. And I still remember, nights where I would go to play practice and do what I needed to do. And then when I come home, I'd still have homework that I needed to do. And I also remember one night that I remember being in her office and laying on the ground, like in and out of consciousness, while my mom was like typing on the computer my report. And I still remember being up till 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, working with my mom, because she cared about me so much and cared about me succeeding that, even at, 3 o'clock in the morning as I was sleeping, she would just wake me up to ask me my thoughts. I'd go back to sleep and she would just continue typing to take care of me.
My grandma is one of my heroes. She has always been there for me.
She spent 50 years teaching the deaf.
It's a high like I can't even explain. It's the driving force that makes me work 10 times harder than any other teacher, because I know I have that child's life in my hands, and there's nothing that will stop me from reaching that goal of that child learning to speak.
She's an honest, pure heart. She's got a pure heart. She's very sincere, and she's got an amazing work ethic and drive. It's something that I really wish that I could emulate all the time, because she retired when she was 72 years old. She's been working, and she still is actively engaged, always trying to help. Whenever we have any type of event, she's always going above and beyond, trying to do way more than what any normal person would do. She's always trying to make sure that it's a perfect event in her mind.
She really gets me. She if I'm feeling sad, she would comfort me
Recently, when was on my mission, she wrote me every week, and I got to know a more personal side of my grandma. I became to know that she is pretty much as funny as my grandpa, and she could get me laughing like if I had the worst day on my mission, and I look forward to those letters.
One of the things that my parents did was instill a very strong work ethic. That was, I grew up very quickly. I learned, how to empty the dishwasher and do the dishes, and then, it just moved on to there to scrubbing toilets and doing all, my Saturday jobs were, scrubbing the toilets and cleaning the house, polishing the hardwood floors that are in the house everywhere. This is the house we grew up in. So, I had to do all of that, and I learned all that from weeding. And I was always cleaning and doing things. Except for one thing she didn't really teach me, was doing the laundry. And so one day, it was just happens that was the night before we were to go to a big New York trip with all of her hearing impaired group. And it was a New York trip, and so I was really excited about it. I knew it was going to be big, and she told me to go down and start the washer machine. So I go down and look at it and think, this is a big special event. I'm going to make sure these clothes are clean. And so I take out the detergent, I pour it in. I take out the detergent, fill it up again, and pour it in 2 or 3 cups to make sure that they're going to get super clean. Put it away. Then I look at another cleansing agent called bleach. Take the bleach, pour it in, all in the washer machine with my clothes, brand new clothes, with some of her brand new clothes as well. Pour it in, push the start button, and leave. About an hour later, it's when all of a sudden I hear Patrick being called out around the house. And I have no idea. And she's obviously concerned. I go downstairs, and all I know is that the clothes that we had were ruined. And and I remember that she was upset. I got a rebuking, a little bit, a soft rebuke, if anything. But I think the biggest thing was that she let my conscience do most of the work on that one. And I probably never started a washing machine again. Just kidding. But it was a true teaching moment for me, because she never really got upset. Overall, even though how bad it was for me, she told me, the problem, and she was very forgiving. And even though that this was a big thing for her, to go in with brand new clothes.
My mom is a saint. She's always thinking of everybody else. She's the last person to have her food dished up on her plate.
And always standing by her side was the man she loved.
I can put a finger on one particular incident that when we had a party with some of our friends in our house, and most of the girls, the young women, were gathering in the kitchen, and I was in the living room with some of the male friends there, talking, visiting. They were cooking and getting things ready, and Sharon was dishing up food on my plate, and she was ready to bring it in to the living room. And one of her friends stopped and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm taking food to my husband." And the answer is, "Let it get him itself." And she said, "No, I like to do nice things for him because he does nice things for me." And that's the basic foundation of our marriage.
My dad adores my mom. When I see he'll do something special for my mom for Christmas, even when she tells him not to. I've seen him buy some jewelry or flowers and give it to her on a special occasion. And I watch my dad, and he, as my mom is opening it or looking at it, he's still, 30, 40, 50 years later, has that nervous, fidgety look on him, on his face, like, I hope she likes it, and kind of like you would when you're courting.
When we go to the store, we hold hands.
She continues to hold the hand of a man her children are blessed to call Dad.
He likes to joke around a lot.
I went to the bank one time, needed to cash a check, and she, the lady asked me, what do you want? Well, I says, I like to have some no money. Can I have that? And she said, what? Yeah, everybody says they have no money. So I like to know what it looks like.
Some of the funniest memories I have of my dad is sitting around the dining room table for dinner. And we're in the middle of dinner, and I turn my head, and my dad has two cheesy things sticking out of his nose. And he would do, or two cheesies sticking out of his ears, and he would do funny things like that just to get all of his kids to laugh. And it was funny because my mom would get really mad. She'd be all, Luke, stop that.
That he's so funny. And
we can laugh about the jokes that the other family members will roll their eyes at. And I feel like that is something that we have together, that we can joke and we can joke about anything.
I get my funniness from him.
He's kind of more of like, tough kind of grandpa, you know, but he gives me like good lectures, like life lectures, like saying, like he gave me a lecture one day about it's good to have like a mind, but it's also good to work with your hands.
My dad, he's a hard worker. All throughout my life, I remember him working a lot, but he was always home. He built the addition, you know. He built the addition. I don't think I've ever seen a more capable person with such a creative mind. He always had to use his hands to create, whether that was building the addition, painting the paintings that he's had in the house, sculpting, whatever it was. He used his hands to create beautiful works of art or amazing masterpieces, and he did that all throughout his life. You know, he dedicated himself, I think, to excellence, and that's somebody that I can be proud of my father.
My dad is an amazing artist. He can do anything.
It was awesome. Probably the best time I've ever spent with my dad over time.
Well, you don't remember that, but I still have a picture when I built that addition.
Yeah.
I built a window that goes outside right over the sink, and you were sitting in that little window.
I know.
Yeah,
I remember the picture.
Uh-huh. And Patrick would follow me all around the house. Whenever I was doing something, he was there.
Where was I?
I think you would care less about what I was doing.
I didn't like building. I'm like, I don't want to lift a hammer.
They filled their home with art and music.
Where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top, that's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high.
They've had a love that has withstood the test of time.
They really stand up for each other, and they're there for each other.
Never a moment when they don't put each other first.
She is the counterweight for all the unhappiness that I have experienced in my life. And she is the only one that can make me feel better. Nobody else can. And that makes it worth living.
I feel as if I married a diamond in the rough. And we have made it a diamond jubilee.
Sharon, my love, I hope to see you soon. Let us keep the Lord's commandments. And
words written 50 years ago still ring true today.
Thanks, Sharon, for everything, for all the wonderful feelings and happiness.
I love you, Mom and Dad. Happy 50th wedding anniversary.
I'm gonna stop you right there. I need you to spit your gum out.
That's my wife.
Just because you're gonna end up chomping.
That is not a viscerism right there. That's.
Where else did you want me to put it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Dad said, so Victoria is available from 7:30 to midnight. I said, yes, if you'd like to book her, you can. And Mom about how to
Whenever he says something, she like says his name, gets all mad, and then she waits for him to realize what he said.
Okay, turn this off. Turn it off.
Mom, he's just filming. This is just for background.
You can edit whatever you
want.
We're
going to die.
kill him.
Mom, you have like a bug right here on your face.
Yeah.
Mom, you have a microphone on. He's laughing at everything you're saying.
Mom was outside doing some gardening, and I found an old metal bread box that I guess you weren't using anymore. So we screwed it into the side of the playhouse wall on the inside, and we poked holes. We got your hammer and screwdriver, and we poked holes in the top of it, and then we put wood inside the metal thing. And we had blankets on all the sides of the playhouse and the windows so Mom couldn't see anything. And we started roasting hot dogs. We lit it on fire in there. And we were roasting. We were roasting hot dogs in there.
Oh my gosh.
One day we were doing it and it got so smoky in there. I said a swear word and I'm like, crap, there's smoke everywhere. My mom's gonna see it, and I didn't realize, Mom, that you were outside and you were doing some gardening, and I hear you say, Michael, watch your language.
I almost killed Coco.
Today?
No. No, not today.
When?
It was when I used to live here.
What happened?
It's okay.
So I was playing Rapunzel with all my friends, like Tangled the movie, and Coco was Pascal, and the mother came home, so I put Coco on top of the playhouse.
Oh, jeez, and he almost jumped off.
On top of the playhouse?
That playhouse?
Yeah.
On the roof? On the roof?
Oh my gosh, Megan.
This is the circle of trust. No one's gonna get killed.
You put my dog on top of the playhouse.
Did you want to throw this?
Is that why his legs are cut?
Yeah, that's why she's got that gimpy leg.
Where are your soccer fire?
Will you show us how you can kick the ball?
Wait, you answered like, you stupid guy.
So she has 4 years. So she made $300, but yeah, she buys things, but how many?
So let's go back to your honeymoon. Homestead. Oh my God. Did you guys go silken curator?
We didn't.
Thank you.
Wait, Graham.
Which one for Graham?
You want little ice cream?
I love those.
Oh boy, I've never seen these before. I thought it was so cute.
Oh my gosh, those are perfect. Okay, have it.
Those are.
Friend?
Where's my kiss?
In the water?
Where's my kiss?
Who's that about? 9 times 9 10.
We'll establish a
You like that?
Okay.
Awesome.
Kids, listen.
You guys.
If you want pie and ice cream, you might want these little ones. So you don't waste them, but that's up to you. Hi, Graham.
Hi, grandparents.
Open the
Fish pump. Fish pump. Yeah.
Is there somebody here?
I'm
gonna fish.
Well, the little
I
kids
licked
are
it off.
maybe,
Okay. This is coconut cream pie. This is chocolate
Yeah, I
cream
call
pie.
dibs on a slice
Key
of that.
lime pie.
My God.
Okay, we're doing I'm a duck.
Duck. Quack.
waddle, waddle, waddle. Hear me jump, jump, jump to the wall, water. I want to splash, splash, splash. 'Cause I'm so hot and hungry too. There's a fish, fishing.
Can I have a piece of that now? Oh.
Yum, 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 yum.
Okay, I need to tell a story about that, Braden.
Huh?
Front and center.
Oh, is he calling you out? Oh, is he calling you out?
About 18 months old. And that was one of the first preschool songs that I composed. And I had sung it to you for months, but you were way too young to remember, to learn the words, and you didn't have that much language to learn it. We were watching TV with your mom and dad, Grandpa and I were there, and you were over on the couch, and there was a advertisement on the TV, and so we muted it, and all of a sudden we heard you going, and I listened, and you were trying to mouth some of the words, but more or less singing the tune. And I said, Angela, he's singing my song. Ice cream's over here for you if you want it.
I just ate it there.
Okay. Who hasn't gotten pie? Graham.
That's what that song's from.
Graham.
Graham, did you have some ice cream?
He wants another ice cream.
Do you want some pie first?
Okay.
Look, Graham, those are party pies. You like some party pie?
Uh-oh, it's melting.
Do you want me to give it to him?
Can you give that to him?
Here, Graham. It's a Grandma, buddy, are you okay? And he still eats it.
What is that?
Huh?
Bite it. No.
I'm like,
Yeah, by the way, I think that's
Step it.
I don't want you to bite it.
I mean, that's cactus.
Oh,
What's cactus sign language making?
Organized.
Why don't you show a nice gentleman what cactus is?
I want to flash the camera, man.
Do it.
Probably.
What are you doing?
What do we think?
I don't know what to do.